Hello everybody, back again with another build video for update 48. Now, before I get into the build, I want to reiterate that pure mag SORC right now is without a doubt the weakest it has ever been in the entirety of ESO history, simply because of the power disparity between sorcerer and that's pure and subclassing. Now, they nerfed SORC into the ground as soon as subclass came out, which is like a double whammy, and I have seriously felt it this update and the previous update, and I once concluded that it wasn't worth doing a build video simply because of the fact that no one would want to play a pure SORC. However, I have had people who want me to create a build video, and it's not that different from the previous builds, but there has been some adjustments, and I'll explain why in a moment. But I will reiterate that this is not powerful in the slightest. It's mainly for players who want to continue playing pure mag SORC but expect basically to not do great, because this is not it physically doesn't have the raw power to compete against any semi-decent player who's subclassed. So yeah, I'll get into the build anyway and I'll explain why I've made the adjustments I have made. So the first thing that I want to get into is the actual gear that I'm using. Ancient Grace, the staple of basically any of my builds. Shock damage, the best. In sharpened, definitely the best. Back bar, restoration staff of Ancient Grace in defending. Best back bar, trait and berserk on the back bar to proc extra damage. Multitude in prismatic. I've went more health this update simply because of the burst damage that's now available due to subclass, and plus the extra stamina. It's now actually better to avoid damage than to take it. So that you need to roll dodge a lot more this update, but you still need to have tankiness. So this is why I'm going prismatic. Trials, I just think it's simply the best defensive set in the game, period. For me personally, if I want a defensive set on any class, if you can call them classes now, I'd always use Trials. In Reinforced, because it's the most bang for your buck. That's in Heavy. And Multitude and Arm Corps, different from 5 light to heavy. I've went 5-1-1 because you need to roll dodge more, and I think you get more bang for your buck now with 5-1-1 over 5-2. Trials, all in Impen, all max mag. Necklace of Trainee, prismatic recovery. Again, it's because I need to roll dodge more this update, and it has saved my life so much roll dodging more, because you want to avoid as much specky bows as possible. Like I have reiterated just there, it is far better to avoid and just get away from damage than it is to just eat it. Now, one thing I will say is that Swift also helps due to the fact that everyone has so much movement speed. The only saving grace that I actually now have is the fact that I have so much more max magicka to spam streak. That is the only way that I can get away from sweaty players who want to kill me, because I can spam streak more. But they have a lot more movement speed, and I feel as if just that little bit extra movement speed from one medium and Swift is just enough to keep me alive. So I highly recommend one Swift. And then Triune for more health and more stamina. The reason that I'm not running as much resistance is because of a certain passive we got changed, which I do like from Zenimax, but ultimately SORC's in a dire place, so we need more buffs. But anyway, they give us a passive that I liked. Anyway, that's the build. I will go into the skills now. Bound Aegis, everyone knows what it does now, hasn't changed for a while. Works on both bars, excellent, don't take it off. And yes, it's now no longer bugged, so it's excellent. Crystal Frags, self-explanatory. Now, a change. Regen Ward. Better than Hardened Ward. A lot better than Hardened Ward in its current state. Simply because it gives you more recovery. And it actually gives you a heal. Now, people will argue, oh yeah, but Hardened Ward gives you a bigger ward, which is true. But if you add the heal that you get on top of this, you might as well add that to the shield size, which is not too dissimilar from Hardened Ward, really. But it costs less, it lasts longer, and it gives you health recovery, stam recovery, which is very good for roll dodge, and mag recovery, which I have found sustain to be king this update, because you need to just get away from damage, and this helps so much. And it helps you actually get out of execute range. And due to the passive that we've got, that I'll explain in a minute, we've got damage reduction now, passively. So you can actually sacrifice the ward size. So Regen Ward over Hardened Ward now, in my opinion. Maybe in a duel I would use Hardened Ward, but in open world I would use Regen Ward. Shock and Soul, self-explanatory. I think it's the best spammable for a Mag SORC in the game currently, because we don't have one in our toolkit. Endless Fury. I mean, you don't have to use this, but I love this ability. It just makes people go pop. It's very satisfying when they do. So, you know, this is interchangeable. If you want to use Mage Light, go ahead and use Mage Light, up to you. Ice Comet, this is just my preference. If you want to use Overload, by all means use Overload. If you want to use Dawnbreaker, by all means use Dawnbreaker. Up to you. You could change this for Vigor if you so desired. However, I would recommend, if you did use Vigor, to change Healing Ward to Dark Conversion, the one that gives you max Magicka back. And I would go Orzagers if I was doing that, but I prefer Harness Magicka to stop true OG. Degeneration, you can use Surge, entirely up to you. I just like this. Streak, phenomenal skill, but needs a nerf. The nerf that it needs, because of subclassing, right, is it needs to reduce your max speed for about 10 seconds after casting. So I think that your base speed plus Major Expedition, so I think it's 170% max speed when you combine base and Major Exposition. That should be your cap for 10 seconds after using this. You shouldn't have all that movement speed with Streak. It's too powerful, so that needs a nerf. But it literally wouldn't nerf an actual Mag SORC. It wouldn't nerf us. but it would actually nerf the subclassing people. So please, Zenimax, if you're listening, you probably not. Well, in fact, I know you're not. Do this. And Life Giver. I think it's the best defensive ultimate for Magsork, but if you want to choose something else to fit your playstyle, by all means do so. Now, the passive that I would like to go over is Daedric Protection. Right. Reduce your damage tick by 5% while you have a Daedric summoning ability active. Right. This is active all the time. Bound Aegis is active all the time. So you have now just a passive 5% flat damage reduction. This is so good because of subclassing hitting so hard. And I think I would actually struggle if this wasn't a passive. Because I don't think I could use Regen Ward in Old World. But it's allowed me to take off more resistances and put on less defensive CP and put more offensive CP on. So yes, very, very good passive. And there is another one. Blood Magic. This is a good change, but it could now % increase to max mag if you cast a dark magic ability and you're at full health. That's a lot more damage, but it should just be flat passive. You shouldn't have to proc this. If you could just have 10% increased max stamina and max mag passively, this would be a phenomenal passive. But guess what? Zenimax didn't want to do that, but it would definitely go a long way if they did this. But yes, it is damage, which is why I can kill people and still use defensive sets and only have 2 offensive CP. This is the reason. Now, let's get into the champion points. Deadly Aim, self-explanatory. Master at Arms, self-explanatory. Duelist Rebuff, self-explanatory. And Ironclad, self-explanatory. Now, the reason that I am not using this when crit damage is through the roof is simply due to the fact that we have so much resistance on this build, right? And we have that 5% passive damage reduction from our new passive. However, if you really, really feel like you're still dying, you'll lose damage, but take one of these off and put crit resistance on. As I've said before, look, Magsork's not strong, so we're gonna have to make do, people, if you want to play a pure Magsork. Pain's Refuge, never take it off. Relentlessness, never take this off, this update. Sustained by Suffering, I literally wouldn't take this off either, because of how good recoveries are now. And it helps you with roll dodge. And Bastion. In all honesty, people, I wouldn't change any of these. I would stick true to these. I mean, if you feel as if you're over-sustaining, choose something else. But this is, for me personally, Sustained by Suffering, Pain's Refuge, Relentlessness, and Bastion are just the best for me personally. And I will go into the attributes. All Max Magicka. The Lady Mundus, because you just need flat resistances nowadays. Ghastly Eyeball Drink. I think it's just the best bang for your buck, especially with the fact you'll have Death Dealers procced, and you'll have about 27k health, which is a lot more than what I usually play with. so Ice Cream Ghastly Eyeball is very viable. Now, you'll see that my max Magicka is not high. Okay, it's not. But with the 10% increase and Death Dealers procced, you'll probably have about 45k max mag, which is decent damage, considering how weak Mag SORC is. Plus you'll have a lot of penetration, so yeah. That's the build, and I will show you some gameplay after this, and happy hunting on Mag SORC. It's very rough out there, so well done to anybody playing pure Mag SORC right now. I'll catch you in the next one.